Blake Lively once occupied a shining spot on red carpets and magazine covers, garnering praise for her fashionable flair and approachable demeanor. Throughout her career, she built a public image that struck many as both glamorous and personable. Someone who could dazzle at high-profile events yet still come across as genuinely friendly in interviews. However, recent developments have shaken that polished facade. The current uproar centers on her involvement in the film adaptation of the best-selling novel, It Ends With Us, a project co-written and directed by Justin Baldoni. What was initially presented as an inspiring collaboration has spiraled into a maelstrom of disputes, text messages, and startling revelations. In a twist that few anticipated, Blake's own attorney chose to end their representation of her and delivered a public statement explaining the decision, painting a stark portrait of a client who allegedly orchestrated elaborate efforts to undermine Justin. As a result, the attorney's exit triggered alarm bells throughout Hollywood, indicating that something was deeply amiss behind the scenes. In an industry where glitz can mask undercurrents of tension, the notion that Blake, widely perceived as amicable and warm, could be at the epicenter of such turmoil seemed almost inconceivable. Yet the controversy began innocently enough. It Ends With Us, cherished by a broad, passionate readership, was set to become an emotionally stirring film. Justin Baldoni, known for his optimistic outlook and poignant storytelling, was determined to bring the source material to life in a way that honored its depth. When Blake was cast, enthusiasm soared. Fans hoped that her star power would elevate the film's profile and draw a wide audience. Publicly, the pair expressed optimism about teaming up, underscoring their shared goal of crafting a truly meaningful cinematic experience. Not long into production, though, rumors surfaced, suggesting the partnership was less harmonious than it appeared. Certain observers picked up on Blake's reported frustrations, which seemed to stem from Justin's multifaceted role. Not only was he the director, but also a co-writer and lead actor. His responsibilities naturally put him at the forefront of creative decision-making. Yet, whispers hinted that Blake believed his influence overshadowed her own. The tabloids thrived on these murmurs, highlighting interview moments where Blake appeared to deliver restrained compliments or abruptly shift discussions away from Justin's role, and commentators pointed to fleeting on-set exchanges that seemed fraught with tension. He had methodically placed damaging tidbits in tabloids to tarnish her reputation. Given the entertainment industry's history of shifting alliances and strategic leaks, many found Blake's charges conceivable. Hollywood has certainly seen scenarios where female leads encounter more scrutiny than their male counterparts. At first then, Blake's claims garnered empathy, particularly from those who believe women in Hollywood can face uphill battles when conflicts arise. However, the narrative grew muddled when individuals close to Justin leaked screenshots of text messages. In these messages, it appeared that Blake was exercising a powerful sphere of influence. She openly referenced her husband, Ryan Reynolds, and other influential contacts, calling them her dragons, and suggested that if her requirements were not met, she might bring these connections to bear on post-production edits, marketing campaigns, and press coverage. According to these threads, her concern about being overshadowed did not come across as victimhood. Rather, it seemed as though she sought to assert considerable control over the creative process, marketing strategy, and even how the public would perceive her role. Meanwhile, conflicting reports gained traction. Some insiders said Blake made efforts to rewrite segments of the film script, veto certain technical decisions, and even reshape the dynamics of press events. There were mentions that she delivered stern messages to producers, threatening to step away from promotional responsibilities if her insights were not prioritized. The tipping point emerged when Blake filed legal documents outlining grievances about on-set conditions, with claims that protocols were insufficient during close contact scenes, and that Justin made remarks about her postpartum physique that she found insulting. Had those remarks been confirmed as true, it would have cast Justin in a considerably negative light. Blake's attorney presented a curated set of text messages to support her claims. These communications were trimmed, emojis removed, and the chronological order apparently altered. The objective seemed to be creating a narrative in which Justin appeared dismissive of her comfort. Then, Justin's team issued what they labeled the complete versions of the conversations, which depicted different contexts. In one example, Blake had accused Justin of entering her trailer without permission during a delicate moment, while Justin's unedited messages demonstrated that Blake herself had invited him in, even joking about the timing. This discrepancy caused widespread head-scratching and started eroding public trust in her statements. A startling development followed. Blake's longtime lawyer, noted for deftly handling sensitive cases for high-profile clients, severed ties with her. This alone would have raised eyebrows, but what turned the situation into a full-blown crisis was that the lawyer broke standard protocol by releasing a public statement expressing concerns about Blake's credibility. Even more surprising was the subsequent disclosure that they had reviewed extensive digital records and testimonies pointing to potential inconsistencies in Blake's claims. While the lawyer's language was measured, the essence was unambiguous. They could no longer defend assertions that, in their view, clashed with verifiable facts. This turn of events shocked many, as attorneys typically protect their clients fiercely, even if that means quietly withdrawing. Issuing a statement that openly questions a client's honesty is almost unheard of in Hollywood's legal circles. Instantly, the spotlight swung back to Blake. How had someone famed for her poise and charm become embroiled in such a tangled mess, so serious that her own legal counsel walked away? The repercussions reached far and wide. Fans who had reflexively rallied to her defense began to question whether they had been misled. Industry professionals, who had collaborated with her in the past, voiced private concerns, uneasy about potential fallout from associating with a star whose behind-the-scenes dealings now appeared questionable. Meanwhile, those who had initially assumed Justin was orchestrating a smear campaign felt compelled to reevaluate. Amid the intensifying storm, Justin handled the mounting evidence with relative calm. He released comprehensive text logs, asked for an impartial assessment of the facts, and made himself available for clarifications. His comments to the media were primarily about maintaining transparency and protecting his personal reputation, and that he wanted the film adaptation to remain faithful to its emotional core. If he felt bitterness or betrayal, he refrained from venting it publicly. From an image standpoint, this approach strengthened his position considerably, since even Blake's own lawyer seemed to be saying that her claims deserved scrutiny. Once the lawyer's statement entered the public sphere, many people realized the conflict went deeper than a routine Hollywood disagreement. Crew members and colleagues who had been hesitant to speak up started divulging episodes of tension on the set. One production assistant recounted instances where Blake demanded extra takes for a particular scene under the guise of creative preference, only for her to later claim in interviews that the production's approach to emotional well-being was subpar. While isolated episodes can be misinterpreted or overstated, the uniform nature of these stories hinted at a pattern. Blake potentially magnified typical production hiccups into incidents she would later cite as evidence of negligence or disrespect. Social media scrutiny also escalated. Blake had asserted that Justin frequently brought up her physical appearance postpartum in ways she found uncomfortable, but the messages made public showed him double-checking her comfort level in scenes requiring mobility or posture changes. He referenced his own chronic back problems as part of his motivation to ensure neither actor endured any strain. Rather than mocking her postpartum status, he seemed to be engaging in a considerate dialogue about their shared well-being. Another flashpoint emerged when Blake accused producer Jamie Heath of showing her a private clip that she described as deeply unsettling. According to Jamie and those close to him, this clip was intended to illustrate the emotional intensity of childbirth relevant for a scene in the film. He allegedly explained in advance what it contained and sought Blake's explicit agreement to watch it. Yet, her subsequent description painted the event as jarring and invasive. Here, as elsewhere, the gap between accounts was glaring, and it amplified a pattern of questionable retellings. As the furor built, the decision by Blake's attorney to terminate representation and release a clarifying statement was like tossing kerosene onto an open flame. Hollywood observers labeled it one of the most unusual legal moves in recent memory, primarily because attorneys are known for their fierce loyalty to clients, even in trying circumstances. For Blake, the fallout was swift. Some producers who had been exploring future projects with her put negotiations on hold, adopting a wait-and-see tactic. Nobody wanted to invest heavily in a star whose public and private persona now seemed mismatched. From costume designers to executive producers, tales trickled out of small disagreements and perceived slights that Blake later reframed in ways that seem far more dramatic than her marriage to Ryan Reynolds. Known for his humor and playful online presence, Ryan offered no public commentary as the controversy deepened. There were rumors that he stood by Blake's side, but later speculation suggested even he was questioning her portrayal of events. Once he reviewed the unedited conversations, he began to scale back from appearing at gatherings tied to her projects, fueling rumors about the state of their relationship, while tabloids eagerly monitored for signs of discord. Neither Blake nor Ryan made any firm pronouncements on the matter. All the while, Justin continued to let the disclosures do the talking. After releasing text logs and encouraging people to evaluate the facts, he committed his energy to the film itself. People who had initially condemned him for overshadowing Blake now asked themselves whether Blake had indeed tried to sway public perception and studio decisions to maintain control. Justin, for his part, spoke about the significance of preserving an open atmosphere on set, where cast and crew alike felt respected. He mentioned that if disputes arise, they should be handled through honest communication, rather than legal crossfire. The statements from Blake's now former lawyer had essentially done more to bolster Justin's position than any defensive move he could have made on his own. Speculation abounded as to why Blake would jeopardize her public persona, one that had been largely bulletproof up to that point. The answer proposed by some commentators was that she desired a stronger hand in shaping the film's direction, marketing, and overall narrative. When she realized that Justin's role, combined with the support he had from production, limited her influence, she allegedly set in motion a plan to call attention to set conditions and interpersonal tensions. By spotlighting her concerns, she might have hoped to pressure the studio and creative team to concede to her demands. If this theory holds water, it backfired spectacularly, especially once the lawyer's parting words suggested a clash between Blake's statements and the actual evidence. As the legal dispute continued, the press fixated on the abrupt departure of her attorney as the clearest sign that something was amiss. Typically, lawyers are prepared to weather all manner of controversies, quietly aiming for out-of-court settlements or strategic legal advantages. Publicly challenging their own client's veracity is exceedingly rare, and usually signals revelations that can't be reconciled with the version of events the client is peddling. This decision prompted many to re-evaluate their stance on Blake's claims. Even those who had sympathized with her perspective began to wonder whether they had been misled or had leapt to conclusions. For Justin, the entire saga might paradoxically fortify his reputation. He and his team have been consistent in their messaging, emphasizing the importance of honesty. While it has undoubtedly been exhausting to have his name linked to scandal rather than the uplifting story he intended to bring to the screen, the revelations and the lawyer's resignation allowed him to present a thorough timeline and supporting documents that undercut Blake's central arguments. When neutral parties in Hollywood witnessed the lawyer's public departure, they interpreted it as a strong indication that Justin's account was more aligned with the recorded facts. With each new leak or statement, the question of who holds the moral high ground became more definitive in the eyes of many. The revelations pointing to potential distortions on Blake's part kept mounting, while Justin and his colleagues were seen as responding with tangible evidence. Some members of the film's cast and crew expressed relief that the reality of on-set life had come out. They had observed Blake's alleged pattern of turning mundane conflicts into talking points for interviews or legal documents, and they felt uneasy about confronting her for fear of jeopardizing their own careers. Once her lawyer stepped away, these individuals felt emboldened to share their experiences, further reinforcing the notion that Blake's presentation of events was not as accurate as she insisted. The ramifications for Blake's future were immediate and severe. A swirl of doubt engulfed her brand, as showrunners and casting directors who might otherwise have jumped at the chance to work with an A-lister hesitated. The potential costs. In terms of legal complications, negative press, and disruptions on set, now seemed formidable. Even if some loyal fans held on to the belief that Blake was misunderstood, the general industry sentiment veered toward caution. Nobody wanted to become the next production caught in a spiral of contradictory narratives. Yet the closing chapter of this drama has yet to be written. The legal wrangling could continue for months, if not longer. And Hollywood's collective memory can shift unpredictably. A new twist, another set of messages, a contradictory testimony, or any fresh evidence could reignite the debate. It's also possible that Blake might attempt a public reconciliation or a mea culpa, hoping to salvage her reputation. But even that strategy would need careful orchestration, given the weight of her lawyer's statement. If she tries to mend bridges by downplaying the conflict or blaming poor advice, she might come across as inauthentic, especially when so much contradictory material is already out there. At this juncture, little is definitive. Aside from the fact that the entire dispute is well on its way to becoming a cautionary tale, the normal pace of litigation could prolong the fiasco, and it's possible that fans' emotions will fluctuate, especially if any new angles arise. Yet one thing remains certain: the critical turning point was the lawyer's unexpected exit, accompanied by the strong implication that the claims Blake advanced could not align with the evidence at hand. It was the moment that shook her standing more than any rumor, tabloid piece, or subtle social media signal ever could. And in that sense, it may forever be a landmark instance of how swiftly a Hollywood star can plummet from grace when facts overshadow a carefully curated image.